Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with If I Could Choose Only One Work by Composer X, it would have to be Work J. Well, Composer X is Camille Saint-Saëns, possibly the most underrated of all the great Romantic composers. We still don't know the majority of what he composed, or at least a good chunk of it. I mean, the operas and other stage works. Aside from Samson and Delilah, no one pays attention to them at all. And there's a lot of them. He wrote a ton of music. And, one of the things that we're discovering when we finally get to hear it, and we are gradually getting through it, is that he was really very, very consistently good. I mean, he was one of those boy genius types. Since the age of 12, he was writing fully formed major works. And, like all those little geniuses, there's a tendency to underrate them. There's a tendency to sort of poo-poo them as kind of mechanical and uninteresting. And yes, his style seems to us now to be a little bit retrogressive. But, the funny thing about him is that when he started composing, he was a radical. I mean, he wrote instrumental music in the mid-1850s and 60s in France, where it was unheard of. His models were Beethoven and Mozart. And pardon the construction noises, I'm in the middle of a major construction project here to build a new overflow room in my basement, and that's what you're hearing. But, the bottom line is that he lived a very long life. And so while he began as a progressive and a friend of Liszt and Wagner and all those people, he wound up, when he was in the 1920s, as somebody who seemed hopelessly passé. And nobody got to be passé more quickly than a French composer. I mean, that's why the word passé is French. I mean, the French is very, very, very into the latest thing and forgetting the last thing. You have to be au courant, as they say en français. And Saint-Saëns, by the time he died, the last couple decades of his life, was no longer au courant. He also became virulently anti-German because of World War I, and he had all kinds of other sort of, issues in that way. But biography aside, the music itself is splendid. And who cares when it was written? Great music is great music. When it comes to choosing work J, a lot of you nailed it. You really did. I was very, very impressed and proud of your selections, because if we're going to give the god Cancrozans, remember, we have to give him a work which is utterly typical of the composer in an effort to persuade him that he should not destroy all of classical music but for that one work. But if he does, at least we have this one work. I mean, that's the balancing act that we're trying to do here. Well, a lot of you picked the Egyptian Concerto, Piano Concerto number 5, and that's the one. You nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. It's got to be the 5th Piano Concerto. And what really fascinates me is that until recently, nobody would have thought about it at all. I mean, we never heard it. You never heard it in concert. You never heard it aside from complete sets of piano concertos, and there weren't very many. Well, now there's a good half a dozen or more. And so the piece has actually come into its own only very recently, and it is a masterpiece. I played the Egyptian Concerto. I mean, I didn't play the piano. I played the tam-tam part, which is in the second movement. There are only 3 soft little taps. That's the whole percussion part of the symphony, in the concerto, other than timpani. But we programmed it in my community orchestra because it's such a wonderful piece. First of all, it has that crystalline clarity of construction and of harmony and of melody and scoring that is so characteristic of Saint-Saëns. There is this supremely ordered mind at work behind all of his music. And some people don't like that. Some people want more sort of romantic randomness and chaos. And that's good too. It's not that it's not that this is a zero-sum game. You don't have to choose one or the other. What we want is greatness in whatever qualities the composer has. And Saint-Saëns was nothing if not organized. I mean, he got up every morning and practiced scales for like hours until the day he died. He was totally methodical, and his music reflects that. And I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's a time and a place for all kinds of music. So you do hear that in the Egyptian Concerto. The tunes are wonderful. Oh my goodness, they're so beautiful. The finale is so catchy. It's a combination of, exoticism and vaudeville. Da da da, ba bum 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 bum. I mean, it's such great melodies. And the exotic part is mostly the middle movement, sort of mostly. But boy, what a great piece. And it also has that touch of exoticism that so much great French music has, that faux Orientalism. You can't be a French composer without doing one of those, right? You hear it in the Bacchanal and Samson and Delilah, and you hear it in millions and millions of other French pieces, everything from Lacme to Thais, the list goes on and on and on. Fernand David's Le Désert, the desert, that symphony cantata thing. The French were always into exoticism. And so Saint-Saëns, of course, has his share of that, of course, made in his own method. So, yeah, I was thinking, actually, since we can do albums, that we could do a set of all of the piano concertos. But the fact of the matter is, because all the concertos are magnificent, they're great. And even the ones we don't hear, like numbers 1 and 3, they're terrific pieces. But one of the problems is that the best sets of the piano concerti are not packaged together in an album. And I know you'll say, well, it's just a technicality, and it is. But I try to be very, very specific, because when a God gives you orders and he says, okay, you got to pick one work or one album, I'm taking it literally. I'm not risking blowing the whole project, because we have come up with the most amazing list of works as representative of the best and most typical by each composer in Western culture. Now we're up to nearly 60 of them. So yeah, Saint-Saëns, Piano Concerto number 5, The Egyptian. And if you don't know it, you're really missing something special. It is a delight from first note to last. Go for it. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.